forget what you've heard about a 6-hour workday in some Nordic utopia. That's a myth. The real story of Norway is far more complex and infinitely more fascinating. This isn't a country that stumbled into happiness. It's a nation built on a demanding social contract, a geological lottery ticket, and a deep, sometimes dark, relationship with its own unforgiving nature. The postcard images of colorful houses and stunning fjords are just the cover of a very thick book. So, the question isn't whether Norway is a paradise. The real question is, what is the true price of creating one? Join me as we peel back the layers and attempt to understand the soul of this enigmatic kingdom. A place of profound contradictions and deliberate design. Let's start by dismantling the biggest misconception, the 6-hour workday. It sounds wonderful, but it's largely untrue. The standard work week in Norway is 37.5 hours, which averages out to a very standard 7.5 hours a day. The myth likely arises from a simple observation. By 4 p.m., most Norwegian offices are ghostly quiet. But this isn't due to a shortened workday, it's due to a deeply ingrained cultural efficiency and a fierce protection of personal time. The concept of flexitid is common. You might arrive at 8 a.m. and leave at 4 p.m., or arrive at 9 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. The point is, you are trusted to complete your hours and your tasks without a manager breathing down your neck. The workday is focused and intense. Meetings are punctual and to the point. Small talk by the water cooler is kept to a minimum. It's about working smart, not long. And when the clock strikes 4, it's a hard stop. This isn't just policy, it's a cultural imperative known as family-added family time. It is a sacred, inviolable part of the day. Staying late isn't seen as a sign of dedication, it's often viewed as a sign of poor time management. This entire system is underpinned by the Nordic models. Core principle: tripartite cooperation. This is a continuous dialogue between the powerful labor unions, the employers' associations, and the government. They aren't adversaries, they are architects of the national labor landscape, collectively negotiating wages and conditions. This foundation of trust and mutual respect is what allows the work-life balance to truly function. But this beautifully balanced system, this social utopia, it comes at a price. A very, very high price that you pay every single day. Before you pack your bags, dreaming of this balanced life, let's talk about the bill. That high salary you hear about is immediately met by some of the highest income taxes in the world. The tax system is progressive, ranging from a base rate of 22% and climbing to nearly 48% for the highest earners. On top of that, there's a standard 25% value-added tax, or VAT, on almost every good and service. What does this mean in real life? That simple cup of coffee in Oslo can cost $5 or $6. A pint of beer in a bar will easily set you back $10 to $12. Groceries are a shock to the system for most visitors. A loaf of bread can be over $4. A liter of milk nearly $3. Renting a modest one-bedroom apartment in a major city like Oslo can easily cost over $500 a month. And don't even think about buying a car unless you're prepared for sticker shock. Heavy import taxes, designed to encourage public transport and electric vehicle adoption, can more than double a car's price compared to other countries. But here's the critical point. Norwegians don't see this as a flaw in the system. It is the system. This isn't just taxation, it's a membership fee for one of the world's most comprehensive social safety nets. Those high taxes fund the world-class public services that define the Norwegian experience. They pay for a public healthcare system where you rarely see a bill. They fund a university education that, until very recently for international students, was completely free of tuition fees. They pay for generous parental leave, 49 weeks at 100% pay or 59 weeks at 80% pay, to be shared between parents. It's a social contract signed at birth, managed by the state welfare agency known as NAV. You contribute a significant portion of your wealth to the collective, and in return, the collective provides a safety net so strong that the fear of personal ruin, from a health crisis or a job loss, is virtually eliminated. It's the ultimate trade off less disposable individual wealth for more collective well-being. But where, you might ask, does all the initial money to fuel this hyper-expensive, high-welfare engine come from? The answer lies deep beneath the cold, turbulent waters of the North Sea. Oil, discovered in 1969, Norway's black gold, transformed it from a relatively modest fishing and shipping nation into one of the wealthiest countries on Earth. But this is not another tragic story of a resource curse, where sudden wealth leads to corruption, hyperinflation, and economic collapse. Instead, Norway did something astonishingly far-sighted, a move that would become a masterclass in national financial planning. In 1990, they established the Government Pension Fund Global. You can think of it as the world's largest national savings account. Instead of funneling the oil revenue directly into the national budget and creating a dependency, the government decided to invest it. The fund buys stocks, bonds, and real estate all over the world. Today, it is worth over $1.5 trillion, owning, on average, 1.5% of every single listed company on the planet. To prevent politicians from squandering this wealth, they created a strict rule called the handlingsregelen, the budgetary rule. It dictates that the government can only spend the expected real return of the fund each year, which is capped at around 3%. The principle is never to be touched. The fund's purpose isn't to pay for today's luxuries. It's to secure the Norwegian welfare state for all future generations, long after the last drop of oil has been pumped. This creates a fascinating, almost schizophrenic, national paradox. At home, Norway is a global climate leader, with the highest per capita adoption of electric vehicles in the world and massive investments in green technology. Yet, its immense wealth and the funding for its green transition are directly tied to the export of the very fossil fuels that contribute to the climate crisis. It's a national contradiction they live with every day. A progressive, green-minded society financed by the world's addiction to oil. They even try to manage this paradox within the fund itself, which operates under strict ethical guidelines, divesting from companies involved in tobacco, certain weapons manufacturing, and those with unacceptably high carbon emissions. This philosophy of long-term investment, of thinking about future generations, isn't just for money. It extends to the most vulnerable members of society, even those who have broken its most sacred laws. When we look at the Norwegian prison system, the images are jarring to an outside eye. Inmates in facilities like Halden or the famous Basti Island prison live in private rooms with televisions and en-suite bathrooms. They wear their own clothes, cook their own meals in shared kitchens, and have access to libraries, modern gyms, and even music recording studios. It's easy to dismiss this as a cushy or hotel-like experience, but to do so is to completely miss the point. The philosophy isn't about comfort, it's about dignity and normality. It's rooted in a principle called restorative justice. The core idea is that a prison sentence robs a person of their liberty and nothing more. It should not rob them of their humanity, their education, or their chance at a future. The goal is not punishment for its own sake, but rehabilitation. By treating inmates as human beings and giving them responsibility for their own lives inside the prison walls, the system prepares them to re-enter society as functioning neighbors, not as hardened, institutionalized criminals. The guards are called contact officers. Their training emphasizes psychology, social work, and de-escalation over confrontation. They eat with the inmates, play sports with them, and act more as mentors and role models than enforcers. The journey through the system is often phased. An inmate might start in a high-security, closed prison, and as they approach their release date, be transferred to a more open facility like Basti to re-acclimate to normal life. Does it work? The data suggests it does. Norway's 2-year re-offending rate is around 20%, one of the lowest in the world. Compare that to over 60% in the United States. It's a radical, long-term investment in people. Of course, it's not without controversy. It's incredibly expensive, and there are heated debates within Norway, especially from victims' rights groups, about whether it's too lenient and fails to deliver a sufficient sense of justice. But it's a testament to a national belief that a person's future is more important than their past mistakes. But perhaps the most profound part of the Norwegian soul isn't found within these carefully constructed walls, but in the vast, open spaces that define the nation. To truly understand Norway, you must understand the concept of friluftsliv. It translates literally to free air life, but that barely scratches the surface. It is not a hobby, it is a philosophy, a core tenet of the national identity, almost a secular religion. It is the deeply held belief that spiritual and physical well-being are intrinsically linked to spending time outdoors. This cultural ethos was championed by national heroes like the polar explorers Fridtjof Nansen and Roald Amundsen, whose legendary exploits cemented the idea of mastering the natural world as a core part of being Norwegian. Today, it's less about conquering nature and more about coexisting with it. It's the Sunday walk in the forest, the weekend cross-country ski trip, or simply sitting by a quiet lake. This lifestyle is legally protected by one of the most remarkable laws in the world, allemannsretten, or the right to roam. This law grants every person the right to walk, hike, ski, and camp on any uncultivated land in the country, regardless of who owns it. The rules are simple, and based on respect, you can camp for up to 2 nights in one spot, as long as you are at least 150 meters from the nearest inhabited house, and you must always leave no trace. Imagine that. The landscape, the nation's greatest asset, belongs to everyone. It fosters a deep, personal sense of ownership and responsibility for the natural world. This connection is embodied by the hytte. The hytte is a small, often simple cabin, usually in the mountains or by the sea. It is the Norwegian sacred space. It's where families go to disconnect from the modern world and reconnect with each other and with nature. Many traditional hyttes are intentionally Spartan, with no electricity or running water. Life there revolves around simple tasks: chopping wood for the stove, fetching water from a well, and playing board games by candlelight. It is a form of chosen, restorative simplicity. This love for nature is reflected in their architecture. The colorful wooden houses you see aren't just for tourists. They are a tradition of building in harmony with the landscape, not dominating it. This fierce independence, this deep connection to their own land, also explains one of Norway's most defining political decisions. Twice, in 1972 and again in 1994, the Norwegian people have voted in national referendums to reject full membership in the European Union. From the outside, it seems illogical. Why would a small nation of just over 5 million people choose to stay out of one of the world's most powerful political and economic blocs? The reasons are woven into the very fabric of their identity. But no. Campaigns were driven by a powerful coalition of farmers, fishermen, and rural communities. They feared that joining the EU would mean ceding control of their rich fishing waters to the common fisheries policy and opening their protected agricultural market to overwhelming competition. But beyond economics, the core issue was sovereignty. After centuries of being ruled by Denmark and then Sweden, gaining full independence only in 1805, Norwegians are fiercely protective of their right to self-governance. The idea of transferring law-making power to Brussels was, for many, a step too far. The debate exposed a deep cultural rift between the more international, pro-EU urban centers like Oslo and the more traditional, skeptical rural regions. Instead of full membership, they negotiated the EEA agreement, the European Economic Area. This grants them full access to the EU's single market, which is vital for their economy. But it comes with a major catch. They must adopt most EU laws and regulations without having a vote or a seat at the table, where those laws are made. It's often cynically called democracy by fax. It's another of Norway's great compromises. They retain their political independence and control over their natural resources, but at the cost of being a rule-taker, not a rule-maker, in their own backyard. But to truly understand how a society of such fierce individualists can agree on these kinds of collective systems, you have to understand an unwritten, and often unspoken, social code. There's a cultural phenomenon across Scandinavia known as janteloven, or the law of Jante. It originated in a satirical novel from the 1930s, but it perfectly captured a pre-existing social attitude. It's a set of 10 unofficial rules that boil down to one core, powerful message. You are not to think you are anyone special. The rules include commandments like, you're not to think you are smarter than we are. You're not to think you are better than we are. And you're not to think you know more than we do. To an outsider, it can sound oppressive and stifling, a culture of tall poppy syndrome that punishes ambition and individual success. And in some ways, it can be. Successful entrepreneurs often downplay their wealth, and it's considered poor taste to boast about one's achievements or salary. But it's also the cultural glue that holds the high-trust, egalitarian society together. It fosters a powerful sense of modesty and community. This social pressure to conform to the group helps explain why a high-tax system is broadly accepted, why trust in public institutions is so high, and why there's a strong sense of shared responsibility. However, this old code is now in a state of flux. A new generation, raised on globalization and social media, is beginning to challenge the constraints of janteloven, creating a quiet cultural tension between the traditional collective and modern individualism. And finally, you cannot understand this spirit without understanding the one force that shapes everything: the light. And the profound lack of it. We are drawn to Norway by images of the northern lights dancing in a winter sky, or the surreal glow of the midnight sun in summer. And these are truly magnificent, life-altering experiences. But they are two sides of a very extreme coin. For a significant part of the year, especially in the northern half of the country, Norway plunges into the mørketid, or the dark time. For weeks or even months, the sun does not rise above the horizon. The world is bathed in a perpetual, ethereal twilight of blues and purples. This profound lack of light has a tangible effect on life and psyche. It contributes to high rates of seasonal affective disorder, and Norwegians have developed coping mechanisms that are now part of the culture. Vitamin D supplements are a daily ritual. Many homes have special light therapy lamps, and the social concept of koselig, a word that encapsulates coziness, intimacy, and contentment, becomes a vital survival strategy. Then, the pendulum swings with an almost violent intensity. In summer, the sun doesn't set. The endless daylight fuels a manic, explosive energy. Night becomes a mere concept, not a reality. People stay out late, hiking at midnight, socializing with a fervor born of the knowledge that this precious light is fleeting. This constant, dramatic battle between light and dark is not just a backdrop, it is the fundamental rhythm of life itself. It instills a deep appreciation for the fleeting moments of beauty and a quiet, stoic resilience to endure the long periods of struggle. It is the final, essential piece of the complex, contradictory puzzle that is Norway. So, we return to where we started. Norway is not a simple, happy-go-lucky paradise. It is a deliberate, challenging, and deeply human project. It's a society that has consciously chosen collective security over individual extravagance, a nation that has leveraged a finite resource into a legacy for the future, and a people whose character has been forged by the extremes of their own majestic and unforgiving land. It's a place that reminds us that a dream country isn't found, it's built, with trust, with sacrifice, and with a profound respect for both nature and human dignity. What part of this journey surprised you the most? The social contract, the oil fund, or the unspoken law of Janti? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story opened up a new perspective for you, consider sharing it with a fellow traveler who loves to look deeper than the surface. And for more deep dives into the world's most fascinating places, make sure to subscribe. Thanks for exploring with me. See you on the next journey.